A quorum of members present, I'll call the Public Health and Safety Committee for Monday, October 16th, 2023 to order. Alder Henke is excused for the night. He's running a task force meeting upstairs, so he won't be with us this evening. The rest of the members are present. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting from 9/18 of 23, copies of which were in your packets. Did anyone note any adjustments that they need for the minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve them. Motion from Larson, is there a second? Second from McElhaney. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed?
I
That
think
motion.
she's, oh, yeah.
Oh, yep, that motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. I believe we have one denial recommended for tonight. That denial is for Jason McClone. Is Jason McClone with us this evening? Okay, come on up to the microphone and talk to us a little bit about the record. Anything about your record that is factually inaccurate? I assume that you've gotten a copy from the police department of the basis for the denial?
No, I have not.
Okay. Let me see. Ordinarily, they send out a letter about the denial. Clerk's office sends a letter, right?
I've only got 2 items on my record, ma'am. I'm fairly certain I know which one you're referring to.
It looked like they were items from 2018.
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you want to talk us through that a little bit, and as far as, what happened, and I guess why you wouldn't agree with the recommendation of the chief?
2018 was a fairly rough year for me. I'm a combat Marine. I exited service in 2001. Was being treated by the VA for PTSD unsubstantially, unfortunately. I was not in a good spot in my life during that time frame. I made some poor decisions. I did some things that I am not proud of. But since I have gone, I've sought therapy at 2 different locations, both Gateways Counseling and Jerry Olson, LPC out of Marshfield, both of which were out of Marshfield. Jerry was court ordered. That was part of my probation and release. The Gateways Counseling was more for my PTSD and in order to remove me from lorazepam and some of the PTSD medications that I was on. Again, I was not in a good spot then. I am not the same person that I was at that point. Again, with counseling, I've learned to communicate. I've learned to express my feelings more, and it's been a better outlet for me. I accept responsibility for what I did. At no point did I ever deny what had happened. I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy about it. I'm just trying to move forward with my life. And a bartender's license for a bartender, that's fairly important. I did take 3 years off after the incident. I wasn't a bartender. I got into the trades business. It wasn't until I moved to Wausau here and I met Tyler where I was encouraged to get back into it. It is what I enjoy. It is my passion, and I have since again made it my full-time career.
Okay. And so that said, you've had no other violations since 2018? Those were the only ones that were?
That is correct, yes,
Were in
ma'am.
the packet there? I guess, Chief, any comment that you wish to make about the record or the recommendation?
Well, I'm new at this gig. However, we have a requirement by the state to review rehabilitation. I mean, that's information that you shared with this committee tonight that I was not privy to.
Understand.
Your substantial battery conviction is an automatic disqualifier. However, it is the responsibility of the chief to review any rehabilitation efforts that you have done. That's not just coming to see me and talking to me about it, but if you bring documentation that you've successfully completed probation, documentation that you attended counseling or that you're seeking to rehabilitate yourself so that I can make a recommendation fairly confident that those are no longer issues that impact your life.
Correct.
I think you will find that I am very excited to get people employed and have them do things they're passionate about. But it's also our responsibility to protect the community. So I would strongly encourage you it would come back to this committee next month, right?
Right. We do have the option to hold action on the license until you've had a chance to review that documentation. And if you decide then to change your recommendation, we would just consider it the next meeting.
So I guess I would say to you, if that is something you're interested in providing to me so I can review it, so I can reevaluate that recommendation,
Most certainly, sir.
then I would ask the committee to hold judgment on that issue
Okay.
until next month.
Sure. We absolutely can do that. Committee, are you good with waiting until the next meeting so that the chief can review that documentation?
I am.
I am too. Doug?
Yeah, so am I, but if you're adding information that would be relevant, I think an employer's recommendation, or at least a letter from your employer would be helpful as well.
I have my employer here on my behalf, so.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Well, and that's true. I guess the other side of this is that if, after review of the documents, the chief's recommendation is changed and he's recommended for approval, he would come in for approval with the batch for next month, and we wouldn't need to consider the license individually. We only consider them individually if they're recommended for denial. So I would say supply those documents either to the police chief or to the clerk. If they come into the clerk's office, she can certainly get them to him. And then we would just not take action until we've given him a chance to review those documents, because if his recommendation is ultimately different, then they'd be able to issue it right away. So,
Wonderful.
okay. So we'll wait on that one. Thank you for coming in, though, and talking with us.
Thank you, folks.
You
Chief.
bet. Thank you. Okay, and then so also on the license is, or on the, in the pack of licenses, is a Class A beer and liquor for retail for a new convenience store that is seeking to open at 102 North Third Avenue that you have on your list. It is the former Clark Station at Third and Elm. And then also is a Class B beer and liquor license for the Pinery Coffee Shop, formerly Honest Jay's, and prior to that known as the Ugly Mug. So that coffee shop in Washington Square was looking for a license. The Liquor License Review Subcommittee met with the new owner prior to this meeting and unanimously recommended approval. The coffee shop is actually, during the course of the year, going to evaluate the share of their business that involves the use of the license, and before they renew it in July, take stock of whether they truly need it, if they're doing enough volume to necessitate one or not. But the subcommittee did recommend that we would approve the license this time and give them that opportunity to try it and then analyze their revenue stream from it. So with that, absent any questions, I would accept a motion from the committee to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff, with the exception of Jason McClone, who we will not act upon until November. Motion by McElhaney, is there a second? Second by Dinny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No one's opposed. Those licenses are accepted and/or denied with the exception of Mr. McClone. Item number 3 is to consider a request for an extension to open for business from Campus Pub Incorporated, doing business as Campus Pub at 110 West Campus Drive. The owner is Kevin Stanky. The police department and the clerk's office has been in contact with Mr. Stanky regarding Campus Pub not being open. It appears, according to the documentation in the packets, that they've been closed because the clerk's office was not able to issue them their license at renewal time because there was an outstanding balance owed to suppliers. And so the owner was invited to join us this evening and talk to us about what his plan is to get that cleared so that he can get open and stay open. Obviously, we have an abandonment ordinance that means they have to get open and stay open. They can't just sit on a license and be perpetually closed. So is Mr. Stanky with us this evening? He is not. So let the record show he has not attended the meeting. He was made aware of the date and time of the meeting by the clerk's office. That said, the committee has the option to not grant the extension. If the committee does not grant the extension, then, it's certainly possible that if a complaint were received, that we would start a revocation process at the request of the complainant. But if not, they really would be in violation of that abandonment ordinance at this point. Lou?
What's the past practice on this? I mean, what has the committee done in the past?
Well-
Do they allow extensions for something like this?
We've done a few
or-
when the owner has a defined plan to get open and stay open. So as an example, we had one that was where the owner had been ill and was working to get the business back running again. We did give an extension in that case. That was Mountain Lanes. We gave one to Sweets on Third when they were under renovation after the fire at Downtown Grocery a number of years ago. They weren't ready to open on time, and so we did an extension for them. I think we did an extension for Limericks when it was under construction and the construction was slow, knowing that they needed to get open. So we have given them in the past. This particular one has been closed, I think, since the end of the summer, right? June 31st. So, right, so they were put under an order to cease operation until the supplier balance was paid. So assuming that's still outstanding, I guess the question that I would have is, it is kind of a chicken and an egg conundrum. If you're not open, how are you going to get the money to pay for what you owe? Like,
Yeah.
if there's no revenue stream, there's no resolution to what you owe these suppliers. So that's a hard question. I wanted to ask him that question if he were with us this evening, but
He said
he's not here.
he spoke to the clerk on the phone. I was in the room, and he really didn't give us anything. He said that, well, he wanted to sell it, but it wasn't very valuable to him if there was no license. But I explained to him that he really needed to come and show the committee that he could be open in 90 days and have something to show, like he had a buyer or something, not that he just wants to sell it. And
Well,
I don't know.
and recognizing that the license is not a property right, so you can't sell the license with the business. And so, even if they do find a buyer, that buyer needs to come in and meet with the subcommittee and this committee and, show that they have the wherewithal to competently run the operation. It's not an automatic guarantee that a new buyer is going to automatically get the license held by the old owner, especially if there's been, some type of management issue in the past, or they show that they've got, just no way to control situations that may happen there. So, we always want to have a dialogue with those folks, when they emerge, so that we can fairly consider what, whether or not that business is going to be able to operate. So, Lou?
Are there any other people waiting in line for licenses at this time? I mean,
I get calls,
it seems though if,
that one
There's
that was
always,
at the last meeting.
there's always inquiries, it feels like.
it seems though if he's been closed since June and he's not here to present his case, I don't see.
Right.
I don't see the worth in holding the license for him, so I would be in favor of
Well, we're
not-
hoping I was hoping he would be here because we want him to, because he didn't pick up the certified letters we sent him. We sent him certified letters to tell him that should there be a complaint and a revocation would move forward and he's revoked, then there is a hold on that location for 6 months. No one else can have a license on that
Right.
establishment, a cooling off period. And he himself would not be able to get another liquor license for 12 months. And so if he did find a buyer, that'd be unfortunate for him because that person wouldn't able to get licensed. So it would be better for him to surrender the license than to go through revocation. And that's what we wanted to tell him, and that's what we were trying to tell him in the certified letter.
Well, and so I
So-
think speaks volumes to me, though, when you've been made aware of all of that and then still aren't here or haven't made arrangements to acknowledge that maybe you have a scheduling conflict and you'd like us to consider this at a different time. I mean, there's been no communication.
That's kind of was what my point was. I mean, if he's
Right.
not here, and now that he's not answering his certified letters, or he's not picking them up, what's the sense of holding on to the license? And maybe we should just move forward and,
The committee has the option to deny the extension, which is step one. And so then, assuming that if a complaint is filed thereafter, then we would consider that revocation process in this committee and then, navigate accordingly. So your first step would be to basically deny the extension or the request for the extension. So what we would do is take a motion in the affirmative, and if no one wants to give the extension, you would vote no.
also make the motion to not to give him an extension.
Okay, but we'll word it in the positive. So the motion would have to be to grant the extension, and then you would vote against. So is there a second to get the motion on the floor? Okay, so we have a motion from Larson to grant the extension and a second by McElhaney for the purpose of consideration. Members in favor of giving the extension, go ahead, Doug.
Question. So just to pick up on what Mary was saying, he did not pick up the certified mail, but it sounded like someone has had conversation with him, or he called here or we called him.
Yeah, both the certified letters were returned by mail. We had quite a hard time getting hold of him. We could not find him. The phone numbers were disconnected. It took a long time. I think maybe someone else that knew him told him we were trying to get a hold of him, and then he did call almost, it was like the day after the last public health and safety meeting that he called and spoke with Caitlin, just saying that, well, economy's been tough and it's been hard, and he wanted to sell the business, and that's about all we
Okay.
know.
So
'Cause
that
we
would
we did have
also,
one up on Fulton that the person who owned that old property didn't show up, and we didn't extend it. So I
Right.
think the precedent should be, if the
Yeah.
person is not here,
I do
doesn't
feel
make
like if
the
they're
effort.
not willing to at least engage in a discussion with us and have some type of plan to go forward, that we're hard pressed to give an extension, especially in a climate where, we don't want people sitting on licenses with no plan. So, okay, so with a motion and a second on the floor then to grant the extension, those in favor of granting the extension
So-
signify by.
So hold on, we're granting the extension,
Well, the
but,
motion has to be in the affirmative, so it has to be in the positive. And so if you don't want to give the extension, then you vote no. And that then
Okay.
causes the denial.
all right.
So, okay, so members in favor of giving the extension signify by saying aye. Members opposed to the extension, vote no.
no.
No? Okay, let the record show that that has been unanimously denied by the committee. And so then if there is a complaint received at a future date, we'll consider that here. So thank you for that. Item number 4 is the operations report from the fire department for September of 2023. Any notable events on the report that you want to talk with us about?
Just kind of the same as last month, just exciting recruitment, retention stuff going on, a lot of changes. Looking forward to the end of this month, and the deputy chief process will be coming to a close in the early couple weeks in November, and as well as the anticipated hope that we can get 5 paramedics out of this next hiring process.
Excellent. Well, let's certainly wish you some success in that because we certainly need them. So anything on the report that you guys have questions for Chief Kopp about? If not, we'll place that report on file. Then we've got the Wausau PD operations report for the first quarter of 2023. Anything that you have questions for Chief Barnes about on that? Or anything notable on the report that you wanted to talk with us about, Chief?
Yeah, it clearly didn't change first quarter to third quarter.
Oh, yeah, the agenda says first quarter, but sorry, we are in the third quarter.
It's my
Correct.
first go-around with this. Just a couple of things that are new as a result of me becoming chief, and we look at recruitment and retention, specifically recruitment. One of the goals we've set for our department as we look at recruiting is trying to meet a national standard set, which is called 30 by 30. So the goal with that is to have 30% of our officers female by 2030. We are a long ways from meeting that goal. And it's not just a goal to say we have 30% of our staff that are female. It's a goal that our female staff are an asset to our organization, and they're able to do things that many of our male staff can't as we deal with a population that's both male and female. I also just wanted to highlight that third quarter was pretty rough for us. We've had multiple shooting incidents recently, some of them occurring in the third quarter. Suicides, we've had some death investigations involving children, and we have a very young staff. So for many of them, this was a new experience. And so one of our challenges is to make sure we're taking care of our people as well.
Right.
So, but at this point in time, it's very exciting at the police department, a tremendous amount of change. You get an internal chief. Next week, we'll be bringing a candidate forward to the Police and Fire Commission for deputy chief. That'll create a captain opening. So someone's getting promoted to captain, and we're looking for 3 lieutenants because of retirements in that promotion. So there's a significant amount of change that's occurring very rapidly within the police department. But that's also very exciting because there are opportunities for people who have very high ceilings, and to have those opportunities present themselves for them is really welcomed within our organization. So,
Excellent. Well, and you've done a good job of preparing future leaders, so hopefully that yields some productive results. So anything else that you have questions about on that report? If not, we'll place it on file. Item 6 is the tavern activities report for the month of September. Anything on that we want to discuss? Anything? Go ahead, Chief.
yeah, you'll notice that the cop shop has numerous responses from law enforcement, and proactively, we invited the license holder for the cop shop to the police department. They came by this week. We had a very collaborative conversation. They were very engaged, do not want those issues, listen to what we had to say about our expectations of the city and things we could do. So I am cautiously optimistic some of those issues will resolve themselves.
Okay, good to know, so we can just kind of keep an eye on that one.
Excuse me?
That's been a trouble spot, yeah, it's been a hot spot.
But, I mean, it's definitely been a spot that for years and years, it was a local neighborhood corner bar, bar tavern, and then as their clientele may have shifted from the people in the neighborhood that are walking there to go have a beer, the more people that are using it, the more issues they seem to have. And we talked through ways of what their goal is, and their goal is to be a very profitable neighborhood bar that serves that neighborhood, and how to set expectations and hold people accountable to those expectations, and utilize us as a partner in that process to get to a very busy, profitable member of the neighborhood, not just a bar that's got problems.
Well, and I noticed what caught my eye was that there was 75 demerits attached for lack of cooperation when you'd asked for a video. That
And
obvious,
so that's I mean, that was the main reason to call them in, and in that conversation, like, I'm going to be removing those points. I think the lieutenant that assessed those points was right based on the understanding they had, but once I received an explanation of how that actually happened, which I validated with our staff, I don't necessarily think that's fair to them at this point.
okay. Because we have had, refusal to cooperate, and obviously that we've handled in turn. So, good to know that. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that one. Anything else on the report that anyone has questions about? It looks like it was an interesting month at Lobno's.
It was.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't normally have 12 from there. I get the couple of them, the bartender called looking for help. We certainly want them to do that. But there's been a lot of other activity, so interesting times there.
I think that the potential is we need to partner with Lopnos on trying to prevent some of those behaviors, especially ones that are occurring that are impacting the neighborhood outside that bar.
Yeah.
If all you have is a bartender inside, and a lot of things could be going on with customers that are either on their way in or on their way out. And we expect tavern owners to be actively engaged into making sure they're not disrupting the neighborhood. The only other change that's changed since the publishing of this is you'll notice M&R Station had a shooting, and it's like bad guy currently at large. Bad guy's currently in the Marathon County Jail, so that's an update.
That's good success there to catch that one. So, anything else on that report from anyone? If not, we'll place that report on file as well. Item 7 is our community outreach update, and so we'll bring up our community outreach coordinator, Tracy Rieger. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
So not too much has changed from August to September in terms of our numbers. So we currently got data that we have about 248 unhoused individuals seeking shelter, living outside in the jail system, and seeking treatment and sober living at Bridge Street Mission. The shelters, once again, this month were not at capacity very often. Salvation Army, not at all. And Catholic Charities, I believe, was at capacity only 9 days in the month of September. The women's community had, it looked to me like an uptick of children, so they had quite a few in there versus last month. So I talked to Shannon about that, and I think Claire is here tonight too. So lots of kiddos in shelter there. Last month, my productivity with individuals yielded in housing 5 more individuals off the streets into their own apartments, which to date is about 41 individuals since I started.
Excellent.
One of those individuals, I didn't put it in here, but is a 25-year-old young man who did some not so good things in his late teens and is now on the registry. So trying to navigate him through finding housing. He was he was in prison, then went to the TLP, and then subsequent, he was at his parents' house. So had a falling out with his parents. He ended up in the alley between Brickner's on Grand Avenue in a tent, which he didn't know how to erect himself. So I have a picture of that, interesting. So I worked with him pretty intensively on everything from understanding what a security deposit was to reconciling his relationship with issues with his parents and his family and the importance of that. He's working at Crystal Finishing. He reconciled with his parents. He, in a month, has bought himself a new car. He's picking up, learning how to play the guitar again and picking up his drawing skills. So he is, I'm in communication with him pretty regularly, and he's super grateful for the opportunity that the city, with having me here, has provided him in getting him into stable housing. So thank
That
you.
is a success story, so congratulations
Yeah.
on that. That's fantastic work. Does anyone else have questions for Tracy about her work? If not, we'll please, go ahead, Chief.
It's not necessarily about Tracy's work. She's awesome, does a great job.
We agree.
I think one of the things she's not discussing and work that she does and plays a leadership role in is working with individuals. We can look at individuals who are housed, but when we look at the homeless issue impacting our community, I'd be lying if I said it's moving the needle of the problem. It's definitely making a positive impact for individuals. So one of the things Tracy and others have come forward with is looking for out-of-the-box solutions and looking at what those gaps are and to develop a plan to fill those gaps. That doesn't necessarily mean they're funded. Some of them are pie-in-the-sky ideas to try and resolve things. But we know that if we continue to do just the same thing, we might help individuals, but we're not helping the community as a whole deal with that problem. So kind of a forecast, a preview of things to come. I anticipate will come before this committee with some ideas to get some feedback. We'll have done some research with it. We might even be able to put some numbers to it. And one of them, for example, is partnering with another organization within this community in order to provide some transitional housing. We know that the big struggle for Tracy, she might get people housed, but then feels like she has to spend 4 hours a day with them in order to be able to keep them housed, as opposed to taking them from shelter to a transitional housing that has full or close to full-time oversight, supervision, and case management, and then move them from that location into permanent housing. So we're looking at some solutions along that line, which will obviously have a cost to them. But I feel like this council deserves to see, here are a bunch of ideas, here are things that have been vetted through other communities, and here was the impact, so that at least we're making decisions with knowledge as opposed to just recognizing what those gaps are.
Right, and I think even a number of months ago, when we started out with a committee of the whole about homelessness, and then as we've proceeded with our task force and things, it's become very obvious that case management is key. We currently have a little shortage of that, so we're looking for solutions on the case management side, whether it's us or in collaboration with others. We also feel the absence of the McClellan House interim solution that we had. I mean, we liked in the task force call it a first stop house, like just to get someone's feet under them before they can even qualify for a treatment program. And we identified that between some of the programs available in the community and that first contact with Tracy, there's like a 28 to 30-day gap where people are in survival mode, but they can't quite get out of that because there's just nowhere like for them to start out. And so, I think we all are interested in hearing those suggestions. And if they come with price tags, we're certainly not above recommending to the Finance Committee that they find some ways to finance at least parts of that, or even if it's a phased approach. I think we're interested in looking to see what that solution is. And, also I think as we look forward to the reopen of the day center and some day services, I think we'll see, maybe that we'll get some of that measured impact back that had been creating before its temporary closure. So, Doug, question?
Yeah, question for Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. Could you give us maybe the committee an update on the Community on Call effort? I was at your presentation last week or two. How's that going?
Good. I was actually going to bring that up. I brought the information with me. So the extreme weather planning team, which was formed out of the Housing Task Force, did have an informational session on Thursday, the 5th of October, for anybody in the community, agencies, churches, individuals that would be interested in joining in the new community initiative that we're trying to get off the ground called Community on Call. And that is an initiative for extreme weather conditions to help house the unhoused when Catholic Charities is full and we need some additional help in the community. We had a great turnout for that meeting. We were trying to find chairs to seat everybody, so it was really fantastic. We have gotten commitments from, I believe, 4 or 5 different groups already, so we're starting to put together a calendar. And so I have a deadline of this Friday to hopefully hear from more folks that are interested, so we can get them on the calendar as well. And I've reached out to the county, and they are being very supportive as well with some of the supplies that we are looking to put in our trailer. So everything is coming together nicely.
Nice.
So I should be able to give you an even better update, more concrete at the next meeting.
That is great, because at the cusp of the cold season, we were talking about, and even extreme heat, we were talking about extreme weather, and the fact that we know that we have a finite amount of shelter capacity, even when they're able to expand somewhat, that it's impossible to expand to the extent that you would have a spot available for everyone on the worst possible days of the year. And I think that Community on Call initiative, when it was brought forward by that subgroup, is innovative. I think members have seen it work in other communities and experienced it, but I love the fact that civic groups can sign up for a week, and that, if the weather isn't terrible that week, we may not call upon them, but if it is, that we'd have that extra capacity to get, a roof over people's head where ordinarily we would have some turnaways. So I think that is a innovative solution to at least have on a trial and see how it goes. So anybody else have questions for Tracy on her work? If not, we'll place your report on file as well. Thank you so much for all you do. And that brings us to adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll also make the motion.
Motion from Larson, second from Dinny. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. So we will stand adjourned, and we'll see everyone next month. Thank you.